Welcome to Film Strip. These podcasts are spoiler-filled as we discuss the plots, characters, and themes of the films in review. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504(c)(2), Title 17.
Welcome to the Star Trek Retrospective from Film Strip. I'm Jay.
I'm Nate.
And we're here to talk about Star Trek Lens Flare, starring Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Bruce Greenwood, Zoe Saldana, John Cho, Simon Pegg, Carl Urban, Anton Yelkin, Eric Banya, and Leonard Nimoy. Written by Robert Orsi and Alex Kurtzman, with some work by Damon Lindelof, as if you couldn't tell, and directed by J.J. Abrams. Released in 2009. Nate, we are in the reboot, reimagining, new timeline territory here, and it's been a long time coming. We took a good break here. We both had busy summers and stuff like that, but we're back now to do the J.J. Abrams trilogy of Star Trek, and lots to get into. But back to 2009, where was Star Trek, and where were you with the franchise?
Oh, Star Trek was dead at this point. You know, it didn't learn the lessons of things like NASCAR and Marvel, where sometimes more is not better. Yeah. And you know, here we are in 2000. Enterprise has been off the air for several years. The ratings were plummeting. It was off the air. UPN was about to close up shop. And the last Next Gen movie, which did not give us any closure, was in 2002. So here we are, we're approaching, almost 50 years of the franchise, and there's nothing. So J.J. Abrams takes it over. And, and such begins not just the reboots, but the constant prequels and the constant, let's go back. And we are still in that. We'll talk about that later, but in comes Alex Kurtzman. I mean, it was J.J. Abrams, it was Kurtzman and Orsi as well, but I mean, Kurtzman is, in my opinion, as a Trekkie, has been a plague on the universe. There was a reason why he couldn't make the Dark Universe work for Universal Pictures, and it was kicked to the curb after one film. And but I give him credit. This one, this team, J.J. Abrams' team, I had low expectations. I was not happy. And think about this.
Yeah.
Star Trek is my everything. Kirk is my hero, the original series crew. And now they're saying, oh, we're going to reboot it. And I was like, you cannot. That'd be like if they rebooted, I don't know, rebooted something that is like tried and true, just like rebooted The Godfather.
Right.
I know they're getting ready to reboot Harry Potter, and I think that's an abomination. But you just can't mess with something that's good. And that's where my expectations were very, very low going in.
Yeah, I had completely fallen out of the Star Trek world. I saw Nemesis. We talked about it on that last show, and I was like, this is bad. I watched Enterprise, but it lost me at some point too. And I was just kind of like, I'm done. I don't know what they'll do with this. And this blew me away, because I'm like, you're talking about a science fiction universe, and you have nowhere left to go. Like that is when you've really screwed up, in a lot of ways. And unlike other science fiction or science fantasy universes who kind of purposely paint themselves in the same circle, Star Trek had never done that. I felt like, and now I remember seeing the trailer to this and going, what is this? Because I had heard they were doing a new Star Trek movie. I knew who J.J. Abrams was. I didn't really watch Felicity, not really my kind of show. But I knew some of his other stuff, and I thought, okay, they're going to put him in charge of it. Cool, sure. But I didn't really care. And then I saw the trailer. It was at another movie. And I thought, who watched the Transformers movies and decided to take notes from that for Star Trek? And that won't be the last time I say that tonight. But I thought, okay, that's a take. I mean, it's different. And you got to understand, I have just come out of what I felt like was as my favorite franchise is Strangest Detour. I'm just now getting out of Rob Zombie's 2 swings through Halloween, which are very different films than anything else. And one of them, the funny thing is, the first one I used to like, and the second one I hated when I first saw it. Years have passed, and I don't really love the first one at all. I like the second one, even though it's really weird. But neither one of them were what I kind of wanted or needed in a
Right.
franchise. So I'm already in that kind of space with franchises that they've killed everything that I like. Friday the 13th still hasn't made a new one, after 2009. It was a year before they wrecked Nightmare on Elm Street forever. So I mean,
Yeah.
like all the stuff that I was into, I'm like, well, they're not going to do this. And then Star Wars hadn't quite rebooted itself yet. This feels
Right.
like a
Right.
demo reel for it, but that was I figured at some point that would have to come too. And so I saw the trailer to this and I thought, well, okay, if you're gonna redo this thing, then maybe Fast and Furious is the way to go. I don't know.
Ugh.
We'll try it. But in my head, I'm going like, now every Trekkie I know is gonna hate this. Like, there's no doubt. So I went and saw it in theaters, and I remember thinking to myself, I mean, I'm not sure this is a Star Trek movie. It's just with all the same characters. And to arrive where they go in this it's definitely a place that I did not expect them to go. But I remember watching it and just going like, okay, and then we'll get into where the rest of the series goes as we get to these last two movies. But this one, I wasn't really thinking anything about it, and then I saw it and I thought, I mean, that was a choice.
Yeah. No, it definitely. I can't wait for us to get into this. There's so much to unpack here, and my
Yeah.
and how it kind of like from the opening scene,
Mhm.
all of a sudden, like I said, I had low expectations, and I was like, well, let's see what. And then that
Yeah.
opening scene is like, oh, okay, all
All
right.
right. Well, we got to get into this thing, but I don't know. What did you think about the idea of reboot and how it was going to try to honor things of what had come before while going in this new direction? Just that, creative choice, because they
Didn't
put
like it.
enough press out there about it. Yeah, I wanted to get your
Didn't like
thoughts
it.
on that.
Couldn't stand it. Not at all.
Mhm.
Like because it's like, look, Kirk is Kirk. Shatner is Kirk.
Mhm.
Leonard Nimoy is Spock. Period. Full stop. Like that's it. That's not mess with that. Like we don't need a new Kirk. We don't need a new Spock or a new Bones. We don't need a new Enterprise. It's just let's not do that. Like why would you do that? Like keep. I was used to Star Trek continually going forward. Yes, Enterprise went back, but it went back before Kirk. Let's continue the story. Let's continue Enterprise. Let's continue the story after Voyager. Let's continue the story after Deep Space Nine. That was something that I'm still waiting to get some closure on, is the state of the Alpha Quadrant after the Dominion War. And Picard, touches on it slightly, but they were more into the whole, the Borg thing. But
Mhm.
which is fine, but I wanted continuation. I like, let's keep it going. There's so many things you can do. Like when I always hated the excuse of when people would want to do Star Trek is like, well, we want to do our own thing. This is going to tie into this here in a second, to this movie. Is like, well, we don't want to be constrained too much by canon. We know there's a lot of canon before, so that's why we don't want to keep it going. It's like, yeah, but by doing a prequel, I feel like you're tied even more to canon because you
Right.
have to say these things that are often mentioned in this show. Like you can't like not have Klingons, or you can't not have, the
Yeah.
Enterprise. Like it's I don't understand that whole reasoning of like, oh, prequels give us more flexibility. Well, no, it doesn't. It really
Not when
doesn't.
you have the
And
ending point, yeah. Unless there
right,
was
but
nothing established. And to go back to my
exactly.
Rob Zombie thing, we didn't know anything about the kid Michael Myers other than what he did on Halloween night. And then we flash forward and he escapes, and that's the whole movie. So Rob Zombie's idea of like nobody wants to see a remake of that movie. We should tell like how somebody becomes this, and he did it through his very Texas Chainsaw Massacre lens.
Yeah,
But you can tell watching that 2007 movie that the first 55 minutes of it, that's what he was interested in doing. And then the studio
yeah,
said, "Where's Halloween?" And then he like remade it in about 45 minutes that he's clearly not interested in, and nobody involved in it really
yeah.
was either. The one thing out of that worked was he got Danielle Harris back in it, who's an amazing person and actor, and he got
Mhm.
Scout Taylor Compton, who's awesome.
Yeah,
But the rest of it, you can tell he wasn't interested in it. And so when I heard the same thing too, I'm like, so we're just gonna have the same characters, but we're gonna tell all the stuff that we didn't know. And in my head, because again, I didn't really know where they were gonna go with this before I saw it, I thought, well, okay, you know what? It might be neat to watch how this crew ultimately comes together. Now, that to me feels more like a television show, but okay, you're going to give me a couple movies where they're not all in, where they are. All right. I mean, we know it, but I'm with you. Like, this has to end in a certain place. We know where it's going to go, but there can be
Hmm.
interest in it if you do it right. You brought up Godfather earlier. Godfather 2 tells you the backstory of Vito Corleone
Right.
while you're
Yeah.
watching his
Yeah.
son rise to power too, but it's done so masterfully,
Hmm.
that you see, history does repeat itself with people, and you just
Yeah.
see it, but that's so much more interesting because a lot of it is in the way it's done, and that Godfather 2 matches the energy of The Godfather in every way. That's why,
Hmm.
they're kind of spliced together now. It's part of what's missing in Godfather 3 is that it doesn't have the same vibe to it. And that's probably because it was
Yeah.
made 20 years too late. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
This movie though is as well, it's Star Trek, but it's a different vibe and a different sensibility, but with some of the same stuff. And I think we got to get into it here. So I'm going to do a real high level plot summary on this, and then we can just start going through because I imagine we got a lot of beats to get through here as we kind of try to stick to our formula. But it's a little hard when they have thrown it in the blender on high speed. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, Star Trek 2009 starts with a shocking prologue detailing the birth of James T. Kirk, literally born in flames, during a brutal Romulan attack. The starship Kelvin, commanded by Kirk's father, George Kirk, or helmed by, is destroyed by a mysterious Romulan vessel commanded by a man named Nero. George sacrifices himself so that his crew and his wife, Winona, can escape, leaving a rebellious young James T. Kirk to grow up in Iowa still without a father, but with the ability to listen to the Beastie Boys. Meanwhile, a young Spock on Vulcan faces prejudice from his half-human heritage, but excels academically because now in this universe, the Klingons are like rednecks from Georgia. Years later, a rebellious Kirk is convinced by Captain Pike to join Starfleet, setting him on a path to eventually meeting Spock, Leonard Bones McCoy, and Uhura. The movie's main plot kicks off when this urgent distress call from Vulcan brings the untested Enterprise crew together. And Kirk, having cheated on the Kobayashi Maru, as we know, is grounded but is smuggled on the Enterprise with the help of Bones and some bad security. And during the journey, the Enterprise is ambushed by Nero, who reveals his true mission. He's going to have revenge on the Federation and Spock, whom he blames for the destruction of his home planet in a future timeline. So Nero, using this futuristic drilling device and red matter, destroys the planet Vulcan, killing Spock's mother. And then this devastating act pushes a grief stricken new Spock to his emotional limits and sets the stage for this desperate battle. And ultimately, we get through a lot of different stuff, but in the climax, an exiled Kirk with the guidance from an older Spock known as Spock Prime. I hate that. I hate that on every level. is caught in this time traveling scheme. They take command of the Enterprise, and they, along with the rest of the crew, including Sulu, Chekhov, Scotty, devise a plan to stop Nero. They get a tense battle. Kirk and Spock confront Nero aboard the ship, the Narada. They destroy the ship, save Earth, end Nero's reign of terror, and Kirk is promoted to captain. And the crew, now a close knit family forged in fire and lens flare, set out on a 5-year mission to explore the unknown together. And I just tried to keep it high end to get through it because we got so much to talk about, Nate. And there's just so much utter nonsense that we got to unpack in this, but we got to start with the opening here. And the way that this starts is such a shock to my senses, having watched all these Star Trek movies again with you and gone through these things, that we just start in this dark, action packed tone. It's such a different place.
Really is. And so one of the things I will say that right before the movie came out that gave me some okay, maybe like, it opened up my curiosity, I would say, is that it opened up my curiosity by them saying, we're not going to be on a prime timeline. This is going to be a totally separate timeline. And
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, all right. So that gives them, I mean, creative, that's respect to
The
Star Trek,
canon.
saying that there
Yeah.
are, canon. You're not going to mess things up that are just not part of canon. So by doing that, that gives them flexibility and freedom to create a whole new universe, create a whole new timeline. And so they're not held by canon, but you still have, it's still Kirk, it's still Spock. You still have to have those personalities. You can't just make them completely new people. And that opening scene, oh my God. I was just like, right after after Kirk's dad crashes the ship into the Narada
Hmm.
and the shuttlecrafts are all getting away, and then you see the big Star Trek come up on the screen. I was like, okay, this might be pretty good.
Well, I mean,
This
yeah,
was not what I expected.
yeah, they come in and you've got this intense battle going on. What's the thing that we've talked about with the battle with the ships and stuff? It's very naval and like very World War
Hmm.
II naval. And it's like every
Hmm.
shot counts, for something. And it's almost like now you can just shoot all the damn time. It's all these lasers firing and there's all this
Hmm.
stuff flying around. And I'm sitting there going, I mean, I'm like, this is like Last Starfighter, man. Like, I can't follow this. It's very Star Wars, like
And
this is heavy, and I wasn't prepared for that. And I'll say it again, and I meant it as a joke, but I also mean it for real. I think J.J. Abrams watched a couple of those Transformers movies and said, we just
yeah.
got to do that because this feels very much in that same world.
Well, one of the other things I did like, and I was surprised that I like this, is one of the first things you see are the Romulans on the Narada. And here's the
Right.
thing: we have an image of what of the Romulans look like on Romulan aircraft, Romulan spaceships. Like
Hmm.
they look like the old Roman Praetorian guards. I mean,
Hmm.
their ruler is called Praetor. They all dress the same. They all have the same haircuts. But you got to think on an entire civilization, are they all going to look alike? Like, what about I mean, there's always got to be the Romulans, the people in a race that are like the seriously hardcore blue collar workers, and they're
Yeah.
probably not going to be wearing those shoulder pad uniforms and trim haircuts and the Romulan necklaces. I mean, these guys are hardcore. They didn't have the Romulan hair. They had tattoos.
They're
They were dressed
miners.
black.
Yeah.
They're miners, and so I
Hmm.
was like, wow, this is okay. I never really thought about like all Romulans don't have to look the same,
Hmm.
and right off the bat, and then I mean, just completely erasing how it would have happened in the original timeline pop up on the screen. There's this Romulan. They at this time they don't know what Romulans look like. They're
Mm-mm.
20 years, 30 years from knowing what the Romulans look like.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like right off the bat, it's like, hello,
Or we're
you know.
thrown right
uh,
into this mess, as it were, right?
mhm.
And you see all these things, the ship's getting shot to pieces. There's all this stuff going on. We got to get, the pregnant mom off the ship. It's a lot of things happening. This is something that J.J. Abrams does a lot of, and Damon Lindelof writes a lot of this kind of frenetic energy. Where you've got six or seven things happening at once. Because I think we've all been in maybe not in this kind of situation in life, but you've been in busy times when you got a lot happening, right? And so everything's just whizzing by you at 100 miles an hour. And so they do a good job of setting us into what would that look and feel like, to have this going on. And you got Hemsworth up there, cheesing it up on the screen and being George Kirk. And he's having this whole like cell phone conversation with his wife while he's getting shot at and trying to negotiate peace. There's nothing going on. There's so much happening that I dare say it's hard to really keep up with what's going on, except for the fact that it all exists for one purpose. And we're going to talk about the way we meet all of our cast here in Heroes. And except one, they are all exactly the same people that we have met before. Now they're acted
Yes.
differently because the actors, some of them decided, I'm just going to do that a lot. And some of them said, I'm not
Mhm.
going to do that. I'm going to do me. And then, but they still, they're all kind of going to be what they always are, which is wild. And this grand explosion at the beginning and this this huge supernova after everything, and we just go immediate forward to meeting our young Kirk, you know. And the fact that Kirk was a kid who would have stole his stepdad's Corvette, a la Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
Yeah.
and did a James Bond dive or a Fast and Furious dive off a cliff with it while listening to the Beastie Boys. I find all of that to be exactly who I thought Kirk was. I don't know that I ever needed to see it, but it pretty well is what we knew of James T. Kirk.
Yeah, no, it really is, and I mean, and I do like that because you don't really see like a kid James C. Kirk with that
Mm-mm.
whole. This is what he would have been like. Very likely. I mean, you've got the Beastie Boys playing Sabotage. I'm like, okay, here's a little bit of that Fast and Furious stuff, and that's. I
Yeah.
mean, that would be the equivalent of somebody getting in the car today and playing, I don't know, some like Giovanni Palestrina chamber
Yeah.
music from the
Yeah.
monasteries, just blaring it out. It's
You know,
just like,
when I'm trying to get pumped up, I just throw in some Paganini. You know, I'm just, I mean, yeah, it's,
yeah. And it's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, all right. And that's, but um, I did like that rebel attitude. In the deleted scenes, you really see it even more.
mhm.
I mean, I would say the movies that we can talk about this later if you want, but the deleted scenes are really cool because they really this one of the cool ones is this scene is extended out, so you really see what happened and why he stole the car. That was really he was truly getting back at his stepdad.
Yeah, yeah.
And very, very Kirk. And then we see Spock as a kid and absolutely lives up to how he became the half human, half Vulcan Spock. And you would think like, oh, Vulcans wouldn't have bullies, would they? But they're like, of course they would. They're
Yeah,
just
yeah, but
logical
like
bullies.
it's like the first time they decided to do it was right before the big test at school or something. I mean, these guys are
Yeah.
assholes. So I'm like,
Oh, I
what?
mean,
You know, the
like their
Vulcans
whole thing is
being,
like we
yeah,
Oh, I love that. That like they just like maybe verbal responses, and we're not getting it from verbal stimuli. Perhaps a more physical stimuli is needed to get a response, and they start like pushing him. I was like, this is so cool. Like little Vulcan bullies. I guess that's how bullying would have been done. Not so much for emotion, but more
yeah.
so for making those that are less that they feel are less than them to put them in their place.
Well, it's starting down a thing that we've always heard Spock talk about, right? Um, and and that he's always sort of grappled with in the other movies that we know so well and stuff is that he is half human. You know, he constantly sort of fights against that part of himself, but he is that, and that's what made him and Kirk so interesting together. Is they are the yin to each other's yang. You know,
Hmm.
because Spock infused a little bit of logical, critical thinking into Kirk, and Kirk brought out Spock's creativity and humanity and take your guess and all that kind of stuff, all that stuff. But that was established over 20 something years of television and movies and things. Here we're having to do it on fast forward. And I
Yeah.
know we're having to do it on fast forward because, quote, everybody knows who these people are. We don't need to waste a lot of time on this stuff. But to me, that's what I'm missing here because they're jamming a lot of things into what's a 2 hour movie, and they're trying to go a long way in a 2 hour movie here. And I think even rewatching it this time, I realized like they never had any intention of really telling us a prequel. Like they just want to get us to the point where they're all in the jobs that we know that they have on
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
Enterprise. And how
Yeah.
fast can we get everybody there? You know, and in the process of that, I don't know. I feel like we're losing something through that, and part of it is how we get to that. We jump from them as these sort of teenage, preteen boys. They got to be what 12, 13 at this point,
Oh yeah.
and this to their young adulthood. And we see them, and and I do like this. I'll say this. I like Zachary Quinto and Chris Pine as actors because I'd seen them in other things and have seen them in other things. And I think they are incredible performers. Chris Pine in particular is a really, really good actor.
Oh yeah, it
So
is.
they got, I mean, and no offense to the chat, but they got like an actor to play Kirk this time, which is which
Yeah.
is a choice. And then they got another
Yeah.
one who I'm going to do Spock, but I'm going to play like the really emo pissed off version of Spock. And that
Hmm.
is something we have never really seen. The one time we saw him get really mad was part 6, right? And when he had the whole like
Yeah.
really violent mind meld, and that was kind of intense. We talked about that on that
Yeah.
review, and but I liked it, and I like the idea of like, oh, we're gonna get to see what that old man had buried for a long time in this,
Hmm.
and I like the way that Quinto's Spock plays off you know what, screw your Vulcan Academy. I'm going to Starfleet because you
Yeah.
guys, all suck. And I did dig that. I liked the parts of him on Vulcan. And this was back before Stranger Things brought Winona back to us. So seeing Winona Ryder again,
Right.
it's like, oh, Winona Ryder, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was as a Gen Xer, I was like, oh, Winona Ryder.
I really like I know that you wanted a little more character development as a building up of who they were, but they're really trying to get to the Enterprise. I actually really like the way they did it because the main guys are Kirk and Spock,
Yeah.
and to understand how they eventually become the best of friends, that's where they focus that childhood stuff on. And then yes, they you fast forward, they're adults now.
Hmm.
I love how they really show, because Spock has, always been close to his mom, but he's always just conflicted because he wants to impress his father. He's always wanted to impress his father, but he loves his mother very dearly,
Hmm.
and he's kind of a mama's boy. And so you see this inner battle, like, and then whenever he says, just the reps is like, I'm thinking of when he's an adult Spock before he's decides to not go to Starfleet to the Vulcan Science Academy, and he says to his mom, I really want to go through with Kolinar to purge all emotion. And
Hmm.
with this, he was genuinely worried. He's like, I'm very worried that you would look at this as a reflection on you, and it is not. And she's like, no. She's like, I no matter what you decide to do, I will always be a very, very proud mother. And then when he has that moment where he's in front of the application to the Vulcan Science Academy, and they're interviewing him, and they says, this is very impressive work despite your disability. And
Oh
he's
yeah,
like, what
that was
disability?
like what?
And then
Yeah.
right there, it's like just slapping his face. It's like that's literally insulting his mom. And he's like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, fuck you. I'm going to Starfleet Academy.
Exactly, yeah, and but it's the other things too is, and I'm with you. Our main two characters are Kirk and Spock. Now we got to get everybody else in the band because you can't not have Ringo. You can't not have George if you're going to talk about the Beatles. You got to have these guys there, right? And I don't mean to diminish their accomplishments, but you got to have Bones. You got to have Uhura. I'll give Carl Urban some credit. He was like, I can kind of do DeForest Kelly. Do you want me just to do that? And they were like, yeah, sure.
Yes,
And they're like,
yes.
yeah. And then they probably saw him do it. They're like, yeah, you need to do a lot of that. I'll tell you the one that I really feel like gets a lot of fun with it. Simon Pegg's just playing himself. So he just is Scotty. That's fine. And poor John Cho had nothing to do. Anton Yelkin, play, you'll rest in peace. Great actor, lost way too soon. Is just doing a Chekhov like impersonation, which was funny to me because I'm like, shouldn't you show up in the second movie? Because we don't know who the hell you are. But that was an inside joke for me. The one who really I felt like got something to do was Zoe Saldana. I felt like she said, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're gonna let Uhura be like a thing now." Then, and that's probably how they got her. It was like you're gonna have to have an actual character here. And I wanted to ask you what you thought of the idea of like Uhura and Spock were like, the hookup behind the scenes. That was a big
Uh,
change.
that has changed. I mean, we're seeing this in Star Trek Strange New Worlds now, where Spock is the guy. He's getting around.
Hmm.
He's like the 23rd century version of area codes by Ludacris. I mean, so I guess this is kicking it off right here. I mean, he's like, I mixed feeling about it. I didn't not like it, but I also I can see it though. I mean,
I,
Uhura knows all these languages. She's
hmm.
insanely smart, and so
Hmm.
she can be emotional, but she's also very organized and very logical. And I think that taps into a side of Spock. I think that taps into both sides of Spock. She's smart, she's logical, she's very pragmatic, but she can get emotional at
Hmm.
times, and I think that's Spock needs that. And I'm on both sides of the fence of that.
Honestly, I could have done without the romance part. I could have gone with it if Uhura and Spock were like best friends or something that they were just good like platonic friends. And because I knew a lot of smart guys who were friends with some of the hottest women on the planet, and the reason the women liked him is because the dude wasn't trying to get with them. They actually liked their intellect, and the
Yeah,
women
yeah,
appreciated it. I could have gone for that. That would have been a real modern interpretation. It would have been fun. And then of course, Kirk's always trying to come on to her, and she catches him in bed with her green skinned roommate, who's the model or whatever, which is funny. But I would have loved that sparring would have mattered more if there wasn't like a romantic triangle rivalry going on here. I didn't need that necessarily. And I didn't care. I'm like, take the story, do what you want to with it. It's your thing. But it just was another layer that I felt like, well, that's going to get short shrifted at some point because they're not going to be able to play with that any because we got so much of the crap going on. We got to
yeah.
get away from this because while we're spending all this time on these people, I'll tell you one thing that really just I did, and I'm not the Trekkie, so I want your opinion, but I hated the Kobayashi Maru test. I was like, that is not how I had that going down in my head. It's played for such cheese, and I'm like,
It's
it's not how I would have
I,
thought Kirk would have done that.
okay, so oh, I enjoyed it. I was hoping that the simulation would have been a little more in depth, like it was at the beginning of Wrath of Khan,
Hmm.
but I did enjoy it. I really did enjoy the Kobayashi. You know, he beat it. Like I was
Hmm.
so excited when he's talking about like, oh, I'm going back to take the Kobayashi Ryu test. I'm going to beat it. He's like, you're never going to beat the test. I'm like, no way. They're going to show this. I've been dying to see this.
Right?
And in again, deleted scene, which I really wish they would have left in there, how he beats it. Like they show, I don't know if you've seen a deleted scene. So there's a
Mm-mm.
deleted scene of how he makes that happen. You remember the Orion girl?
Yeah.
So he like sends her a message like, "Hey, can you do me a big favor? Right at I think it's like 9 o'clock in the morning. Don't open this till 9 o'clock." Like he sends her a message, "Don't open this till like 9 o'clock in the morning, but it's very private and very special, so you got to do it like right after class after at this like station on at Starfleet Academy." So she's so excited. She opens it up and it's sends a virus out and into he has it programmed to where the simulation he could beat the simulation. And he's like, oh, the scene where he's just sitting there eating the apple and he's like, oh, don't worry about it. He's like, is he not taking the test seriously? And then he says, should we he's like he says, all right, get ready to open fire. He's like, but their shields are up. He's like, are they? And they're like, no, they're not. No, he's like, open fire. One torpedo each should do it. And then he's, oh
Yeah.
my god, I absolutely
See,
loved it.
I like the idea of Kurt using his ability to seduce people to get what he wants out of it as a
Mhm.
way to like get his way. That's fine. It's just the cheesy way they play it. But to back up though a little bit, the
That would
thing
be a
that
very original, serious thing to do too. I think.
it might have been, but the to back up though is how he even gets there is the other wild part of this. And he's basically doing nothing, which I didn't need the Enterprise built in the field in Iowa, by the way. That was a little too, close.
That I didn't like.
I
I
was like,
didn't
it
like
could have been
that. That was
anything.
like
It didn't need to be that ship, right? It
it
could have been
didn't have to be
anything.
that. That was
Yeah.
too. Just build something else. Build
Yeah,
another ship. I
it's too
just
close,
that
right? I
that
do
was
like the
too
idea
much of a
though
foreship.
that he got like basically drafted into Starfleet because he gets in a bar fight and he beats the crap out of all of these Starfleet cadets. And I'll say this, Bruce Greenwood got handed what I felt like was nothing and really made a part out of the Pike part. And
Oh
I know Pike's
yeah,
a big deal,
yeah,
but I think what they had on paper was not nearly what he brought to it. And this guy can do anything with that. I love the way this guy acts. And he just brings like a quiet confidence and gravitas to things. And so when he
yeah,
talks, and part of it's that voice, when he talks, you just listen to him, and you can tell it's Kirk's not the kind of guy that's ever listened to anybody, but he'll listen to
yeah.
him. And I like
Hmm.
that. I could have done with more of Pike being that substitute father figure, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I'll just say it now. Like, I felt like this movie would have been so much more interesting if we don't end with all of them in command positions, but they're all under the command of Pike and his crew, and we get to see them grow into those roles rather than be thrown into them.
I agree. Bruce Greenwood. I mean, yeah, Bruce Greenwood. He was great.
Mhm.
He was absolutely great as Pike. He I've loved him since Nowhere Man. Honestly, that's where I first saw him.
Yep.
Great show, very underrated. Shouldn't have
Mhm.
ended, but it was. I would have liked to have seen more of that because I think you're exact. I think you nailed it right on the head. He played the perfect type of father figure that Kirk never had,
Yeah.
and he kept on the straight and narrow. He was very no bullshit, but he was also very respectful of Kirk. And I think he saw more in Kirk than he saw in himself, and I
Yeah.
really really respect that. And talking about getting into, I mean, now you know why Dr. McCoy's called Bones. Oh
Oh,
man,
yeah. I gotta
oh
say that
man,
it's everything's got to be done on fast forward in this movie, right, or whatever. But Carl Urban does a good like he's just a good everyman anyway. and everything
He
he does, and they give him that great story. He left me everything but my bones. I was like, I love this guy, man. Already, I'm down because I realize I'm like, okay, well, one thing that they're going to keep in is that he's the comic relief of this
yes.
mess. He's the third part, and to go back to my earlier metaphor, he's the Ringo. So okay, yeah, I'm game for that. Like that will work. He was
He
fun. So
he did his homework on
mm,
Dr. McCoy. Carl Urban absolutely he if there's anybody who I'd say was the closest at matching the personality of that character, Carl Urban did it. I mean,
oh yeah.
I wasn't sure. Like I knew he was a good actor, but I was blown away. Like all the metaphors he does and all the, you,
He's this
you
country
don't go into the
doctor.
Kentucky Derby and leave your prize horse in the stable. And he's like, stop with the metaphors.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah,
he
just
clearly,
everything was so good. He was so
I,
good.
he made a choice, and I think they made a choice too that like we have to write that character the same way. Nobody will accept it any other way. Scotty acts a certain way. Sulu and Chekhov are kind of their own thing. Like John Cho gets to be a little bit more serious, but not really. He's still Harold, in a lot of
Yeah,
ways. So
yeah,
he's yeah,
yeah,
he's
yeah,
kind of he gets a friggin' sword fight for reasons we'll talk about. But
yeah.
they do some of that stuff, but like the Bone stuff, like Bones and Uhura, I feel like yeah, okay, that's a fun interpretation. One's
Mhm.
basically a copy, and one is a new interpretation. I like those things. I think it's good, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of dug again emo Spock. And I'm not making fun of
Oh,
him
I
when I
did.
say that. I think Quinto said nope. We're gonna play this with Edge. I'm gonna be Edge. I'm gonna be tough, and I'm gonna be mean, and people are gonna look at me different because I can't be Leonard Nimoy, especially when you're gonna put him on screen with me later. So as we'll talk about, and again, Chris Pine said specifically when they hired him for this, he said, I am not going to do Shat. I'm not doing Shatner. You got to give me
Yep,
something else
yep.
to do. And it's the right choice. It really
It is the
is.
right choice.
Yeah, even though
It
he's the
is the right
same
choice.
character, and I want to be clear about that. This is exactly who I think James T. Kirk was as a kid and
Oh
growing
yeah.
up. He's yeah,
He's
he's that
Kirk, he's
personality.
not Shatner. He's Kirk,
Exactly.
he's not Shatner.
Yes,
And
thank
that's
you.
what I
Yeah.
envision what Kirk would have been like at this
Yeah.
time of his life.
Hmm.
Chris Pine, what he does is exactly how I think he would have been. Absolutely the playboy, the most popular guy, the
Hmm.
energetic guy, but also the guy who just knows how to get out of any situation.
Hmm.
Even when people are like, that's not the right idea. He's like, oh, trust me, we got this. Oh,
But
yeah, he's
I,
great.
I do love the idea too that what got played off as a joke to us in Wrath of Khan, Kirk cheated, beat the test, they let him on
Yeah.
through. That oh no, you're not just going to cheat. You got to go to the disciplinary hearings. He's about to get kicked out of
Yeah. It's
school.
not like they were just, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm like, oh, there are consequences to this shit. That's different. And of course it's going to get interrupted by, the big problem here, the distress signal from Vulcan that's going to really set everything off,
Yeah.
right? So we mobilize the
Yeah.
cadets just like Starship Troopers, and because the fleet's always out of damn range, and it's the worst deployed fleet in the history of the world or the
Oh, yeah.
universe. But they're going to get aboard the Enterprise to try to get there, right? And
Yeah.
what's what I wanted to get into is this idea of like the whole Nero threat and what he's trying to do, and his whole idea of his motivations of I want revenge against Spock and the Federation because they destroyed my home planet by trying to reignite the core with, the Illuminati
Mhm.
matter from the Dan Brown books. I mean, that's all I thought about when I saw this. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
somebody read that, but
Yeah.
what did you make of all that as like a motivation and a MacGuffin and stuff? Because as far as Star Trek villains go, it's not the dumbest reason I've ever seen somebody do something, but it does seem like the most ham-fisted one.
So again, I hate to keep going back to deleted scenes for things, but there's a lot in the deleted scenes that explain so much. Like, for example, yes, he's angry, but think about this. When Nero first shows up, it's when Kirk is born. And now he's
Hmm.
attacking Vulcan 28 years later. Where has he been?
Uh-huh.
Like, why has he, if he's had this revenge the whole time and he says he was just waiting for, you know, Spock Prime to show up, I don't think he would have waited 28 years for Spock Prime. He knew, like, doing the math, oh, he's going to show up 28 years later in the future. Wait, number one, he ain't going to wait that long. He's pissed. He's angry. He just lost everything.
Hmm.
He ain't got the time, the patience to wait for 28 years. And number two, he's gonna take his revenge now. Like he's his crew's not going to wait 28 years. What are they just going to like rumble around the Alpha quadrants for 28 years, just killing time? I mean, no,
Yeah,
that's so the deleted scenes explains that in the deleted scenes that after George Kirk crashes the ship into the Narada, the Klingons show up and they capture the Narada and they imprison the entire crew. And he and his crew are put into like a work camp for 28 years. And then he escapes. And that's
see,
why once he gets back out, that's why he goes, and
okay,
that's when he goes after Vulcan.
that needed to be left in the movie then, because that is I haven't seen any of these deleted scenes. So I've seen the clips of young Kirk before because it's been online and stuff. I've
Yeah.
never watched the deleted scenes in this, and that would have explained so much more because that was a huge plot hole for me. I'm like, why is this guy just
Oh, it was
dicking around
massive. It
for
was like,
30 years? You know.
yeah, like what did he do for 30 years? Like
Also, if
this
you're
guy wants
time
revenge.
traveling, you do what Marty McFly did. You go back 2 minutes before and fix it, right? You don't
Well,
allow that to happen
they couldn't
again.
time travel. Well, they couldn't time
Hmm.
travel. Like they didn't have a
Hmm.
time travel machine. It was just it opened up basically a rift in space time, and it was that
Hmm.
red matter taking out a sun, and he's not gonna. I mean, he's back in time. He's going to try to prevent all this from happening. But Nira does make a comment that he like when he's interviewing when he's interrogating Pike,
Hmm.
when he says, I saw it happen. You just Romulus is destroyed, and Pike's like, no, it's still out there. What are you talking about? And he's like, no, me and the Romulan Empire and I stand apart. So apparently, at some point during those 28 years, he tried to reach out to the Romulan Empire. It's like, hey, we got to attack the Federation, and oh, check it out, I got all this like wild weaponry and technology. We can do it. And the Romulan Empire says, nah, we're good. So there are plot holes there that I agree that, and to me the biggest one was like, well, wait a minute, what was he doing for 28 years? Like
And
that was not
being in
ever.
prison would have made sense. Then, yeah, that would
Yeah,
have totally worked. But never mind. It's there. It is our plot as it is, and we're gonna whack the planet of Vulcan, which okay. Now I'm going to go, okay, movie. A golf clap for going in a very wildly different direction and setting one of our main characters into a spiral like the which we've never seen before. The
mm,
way that goes down is it's some incredible looking special effects work. Like it really is. I want to say this movie looks incredible. I know I called it lens flare, and that's just JJ's thing, but it looks cool. Like honestly, I don't even really notice that crap unless I'm just looking for it. This action scene is incredible. It really is. It's a little like they try to work real hard to make sure everybody gets a scene in it, which I guess
yeah,
is just the problem of the script, and it's always been the problem with these, right? Is how do you get everybody when you have a television show that's an ensemble cast, they can't all have a moment in the movie, right? Like we've talked about,
right, yeah.
especially when this is really about two of them. And I'm sorry, everybody, but it's just how it is. I don't know. I still feel like though they give us some great action, and that planet imploding the way it does, that's incredible looking work.
Oh, so good. And I remember the girl I was dating with at the time. She was saying, "It's like, are they gonna blow up Vulcan?" I was like, "No, no, they're gonna blow up Vulcan. Trust me, it's too important to the planet. They're not gonna blow it up." And then when the dark matter drops and explodes in the core, like, well, they're gonna stop it. They gotta have to stop it. Like, there ain't no way they're gonna destroy Vulcan. Of all places, you kidding me? And um, then it implodes. Oh,
Well,
I sat there just speechless. And then the sad music and the Vulcan survivors and Spock's,
Well, you watch Amanda
Anders log.
literally drop under out of range
Oh,
of the
oh,
transporter.
yeah.
And by the way, I love the new transporter like animation. I do love
Hmm.
that. I thought that looked cool. Because it's all the swirling planets around you and the white glow and all that stuff. I mean, I
And
don't,
but at the same time, the old school sound effect.
yes, yeah, which I love that though, because again, I'm
Yeah,
giving you something new with the sound that you know, which is almost the way
yeah.
this whole movie works, right? It looks shiny, but when they drop her out of the scene, I was like, "Ooh, I did not see that coming." Okay, so now we've not only got like home planet is gone, but your mother is gone in front of you. He killed my mother, and to watch his reaction to that is some of the best stuff that Quinto does in the movie. It really is.
Yeah, no, it really that emotion, like he's just, and as we will talk about later, being emotionally compromised. Oh, he's definitely that.
Hmm.
And you see where he starts to fall apart, and he and Kurt, while they one day become the best of friends, it doesn't start off on the right foot. It really
Mm.
does not start off on the right foot at all, and so eventually you see the two of them have the big fallout, and he just kicks Kirk out like, you're gone, like we're going to dump you on this planet and we're out of here.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, he drops this ice planet, and then lo and behold, who shows up?
So here's where I start to go, okay, now. And that's where I start doing this like fold my arms, be angry at the movie thing here. Because up until this point, I've given it all of this stuff to get us here, right?
Hmm.
We let Sulu have a freaking sword fight. Okay, cool. We we're jumping around. We got Chekhov like beaming people left and right. We got all this crap happening, right? And it's mostly been kind of fun, right? When they drop him on the ice planet of Hoth, that just also happens to have old Spock on it. I'm like, all right, movie. Now, and please tell me there are deleted scenes to explain how that piece of convenience works out. Because I get the idea. I want you to watch your planet get destroyed from this nearby moon. But the chances, the galactic math chances that new Spock knows, we're dumping Kirk on this thing over here, where his old self is, are astronomical leaps of logic that I have to make. Unless you want to play the game of this is fate, just working things out like it's always supposed to, which that's not what Star Trek is, but okay.
No, and there's no deleted scene to explain like on this entire. But we got to think they're not far. What? Here's something to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Kelvin Spock was not going to just dump Kirk in the middle of this, in the middle of Hoth for oh my god, that's a great way to put it, to die. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was still near a Federation base, but he wanted
Mm-hmm.
them far enough away that he wasn't going to just immediately go to the Federation base. And I think that Nero did the same thing. He's like, hey, I don't want to kill you, Spock. I want you. So I think Nero did the same thing, put him close to the base, but he says, you're going to watch first. And
Mm-hmm.
then you want to save yourself, and you go to the Federation base there. But he did not, Nero did not want to kill Spock. He wanted him to stay, he wanted him to
Oh,
suffer forever, like he had
mm-hmm.
suffered.
No,
And so by
100%.
doing, like he
Yeah,
wasn't just going to abandon him on in the middle of this entire planet and
right.
then like freeze to death. He's just like,
I
I am taking comfort in the fact that you're near the Starfleet base, you're going to be fine, but I also know that you are going to be wrecked for the rest of your life, and that
right. I
is
mean,
what I wanted.
I get that. I'm just saying, getting those two pieces together,
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah. Oh,
hard
I see what
to
you're saying. Yeah,
see what I mean. Like,
yeah.
I understand the motivation of both characters to do what they do to Old Spock and Kirk, respectively. Makes total sense. Again, it's you have to make this gravity leap in in logic to go, well, I guess it's just how things have to work. I mean, it's really because the plot says so, but like if you're trying
Hmm.
to figure out how, what are the odds of that, you can't. There's no way that that would have just worked out that way. You know,
Right, right. But
you
they
got to
had to
give the
get the
movie
movie going
that.
along. Yeah,
Yeah, I get that,
yeah,
but we're an hour into this thing now, and you can't ask me to give you more mulligans. I've already given you all of them. So we're on the back nine. Like that's no more. Like what's going on?
yeah.
But it's really there so that Leonard Nimoy can explain to us what in the hell is going on. Because at this point we don't
Hmm.
know. Like we really don't know what's happening. We've gotten bits and pieces of it, and as only he can, he does shore up the first half of the movie and go, let me explain to you why we're all here, children. And it's really well done. I'll have to say it's a lot of convenience and it's a lot of oh, okay. And I feel like again there's some good deleted scenes probably to go along with this, but I do like the way he wraps it up and talks about how he and Nero are from far in the future, but they both got sent back 20 something years apart. But after this,
Hmm.
supernova went off, because he made a mistake. Yeah. And that's the wild part of it is that you realize no matter how smart Spock is, and he's one of the smartest creatures to ever live in our movie world here, right? he had a plan and it failed. And that's just the weird part is to hear Spock talk about something not working. Because this is the last time Spock had
Yeah.
a plan that didn't work. And it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh. And I think and I didn't watch any of the, extra stuff, so I don't know. You'll have to tell me. But I feel like J.J. Abrams really wanted us to tap into Spock's humanity in a way that maybe they just never had before. And one way to do that is to give him like a point of failure about every 15,
Oh yeah.
you know.
And they did.
Yeah.
And they really did. I think that was I thought that was brilliant. They really tapped into his human side to do this while it really showed that inner struggle that he had at the beginning of the film. Like this was
Hmm.
always an inner struggle with Spock that Spock often alluded to, whether it was the series or the movies, he often alluded to how much of a struggle it could be. And a great example of that, Star Trek Five, scene with Cybok on the Enterprise, where Spock is born and his dad Sarek says, "So human," and
Hmm.
that right there was probably the closest we got of showing how much Spock struggles with that. And this movie really put it to the forefront, and I applaud it for that. I really, really do. But
The,
down on this planet,
yeah,
they and we get the last person on the Enterprise, Scotty. We
of
see
course.
Scotty working in there, and his small comic relief. I will say of the characters that I was least impressed with, it would. I love Simon Pegg, I do, but I was least impressed with his Scotty.
He's not given anything
And
to do. I mean, he really doesn't. He's there to work the transporter and to kind of show up and make you laugh because that's all.
yeah,
That's what he's good at.
and what's the whole like sidekick comic relief non-speaking thing
That's
there? Like I
that's
don't.
JJ being Steven Spielberg with aliens and kids, man. It's
Yeah,
his Mac and
yeah.
me or something. That's what that is.
Oh,
That's.
smacking me.
I
Oh
mean,
my
that's
god.
what it looked like. That's what
Yeah,
I
you're right.
thought.
You're
I
right.
was like,
Yeah. No, it was just
here,
like okay.
here's my alien
But
sidekick, Fufa, or whatever. I mean, it's.
yeah.
Uh,
So, but at least we get him on there, and they get
Well,
back
the
on
the
the
whole idea
Enterprise.
is the older Spock has told Kirk like, there's a way for you to get back into this. Is you
Oh
you
yeah.
got to piss off. We got to say, Pike is at the moment is being tortured like hell on this mining ship,
Yes.
which sucks
Yes,
because I
he
like
is.
Bruce Greenwood and he deserved better. So Spock's currently in charge, and then Kirk gets on there and he sure enough pushes the buttons, and Spock
Yes, he
not
does.
poor Chris Pine. He felt like he spent half this movie in like bruise makeup and with his jaw hurting from somebody just hitting him in the face. Like for our swashbuckling hero, Kurt gets his ass kicked a lot in this movie. He really does.
He and not only his ass kicked, he's always choked.
Yes.
He's always being choked. Like nobody's just like punching him. They're just like choking him.
Hmm.
And it's like God, wow, why is that the preferred method of to fight of Kurt getting his ass beat is being like choked out all the time. And then like you see that like but like you said, going back to Prime Spock, and he says, there ain't no way that
Hmm.
your version of me is going to let me take command of that ship. And Prime Spock's like, you're the one to do it. I know you, I know who you are. If there's anybody who can figure this out, it's you, but you've got to take command of the ship. It is not going to be me. And he's like, whatever, your dead body, preferably not. But he says, I assure you, I lost my entire home world. I am emotionally compromised. And
Hmm.
when he gets back on the ship and that confrontation between Spock and Kirk, wow. I mean, it just blows up.
It's intense. I mean, it really is. And but Spock does the thing he's supposed to do. The logic takes over.
Hmm.
I've got to be relieved of command. I'm out. And he goes and he talks to his father. And what I love is that Sarek, who, Spock is always trying to please this unpleasable logical being, right?
Hmm.
At least in his head,
Hmm.
that's what he thinks. And Sarek tells him to do the most human thing possible. Go be with this man because he needs your strength to do this. Even he sees
Yeah.
that they're better together than apart, that's always what we've known about Spock and Kirk. Like we needed to get them there, but and I'm sitting here talking about it, going like, yeah, that sounds really cool. The problem with it, Nate, is that it looks like shit on screen. Like it doesn't really work. Like I'm having to help the movie a lot with this because I feel like there's a lot more of this that could have happened. And maybe we didn't need some of that early backstory to get us here. I don't know. I feel like there's either a great 3 hour version of this or there's just a better 2 hours that they left some of which on the floor.
There's a lot they left on the floor, I feel. Like I said, this is a movie where the deleted scenes really would have enhanced the movie. And I feel like there were things that were cut out just on the cutting room floor, not in deleted scenes or anything, but just on the cutting room floor that could have brought some things full circle. I think if this was a 3 hour film, it would have been even better.
Mhm.
So, but now we've got Kirk in command, and off they run to save the day.
Yeah, I mean that Kirk, of course, is going to get into a fight with Nero because we have to have Eric Banya and Chris Pine fight each other, Troy style, which is fine. And I know Chris Pine wasn't in that, but he could have been. And so that's fine. Talk about was given nothing to do and made all he could out of it. Is poor Eric Banya. He's just trying to milk anything out of this that he possibly
Yeah,
can.
he was really thin.
But we're gonna rescue Pike while Spock is using the older Spock's ship, which I do kind of like, mostly because it reminds me of the one that Obi-Wan Kenobi gets to fly in Attack of the Clones. 'Cause it looks very similar, but it's kind of a cool
It
little
does.
ship. It really does. It's kind of
Yeah.
scary, but it looks cool. And they blow the drill up, and he's gonna set the ship because of course Spock is going to sacrifice himself. That's his ultimate thing. Is like I've
Yeah.
got to go down, right? I've got the red
Yeah.
matter. I'm going to fly it in there, and I'm going like there ain't no way in hell this is going to happen. And this is what I hate about it is that is what I expected them to do, and it's like such standard movie convention. Like, of course he's going to
Mhm.
sacrifice himself, and of course they're going to beam him out of it at the last second. When what would have been way more interesting is for him to go, I'm going to fly this thing toward this other ship, but Scotty, I need you to beam me out of it at the last second because I know you know how to do that. Like that,
Yeah.
that would have been even more unconventional. Like, oh, well, you're just going to call out the thing. Well, cool, that works. And it's like calling your shot in baseball and then going jacking it 500 feet in the air, Shohei. I mean, okay, sure, I'm down for that. It's some good explosions. I mean, again, we got lots of good action, and the
Well,
inside of the Narada, by the way. I was having
mhm.
flashbacks to a recent appearance I had on Two Girls One Crip where we went through the entire Hellraiser franchise. And I was like, oh my God, they just like, I think JJ's a secret Hellraiser fan because there's lots of Hellraiser in that ship. Like
Oh, very much so.
right? Like you
Well,
see it.
also that ship uses, and this is something that was in the canonical comics, is that ship takes Borg technology. So some of the computers and stuff they see it, and even their weapons, you see the green in the
That's what I
weapons.
was going to
They've
say.
incorporated
Yes.
some Borg technology,
Okay.
and that's why they have what they have, and that's why it looks the way it looks.
Okay.
I mean, you got to think the Borg used to scoop up entire cities off of planets,
Hmm.
and so what better for a mining vessel than Borg technology to scoop stuff out of a planet? So,
Uh-huh. That makes sense
yes,
now.
that's why you see a lot of that. But I agree, I love the inside of the Narada.
I
It's
mean, it looked
massive.
cool.
It's
I
so
mean,
cool. Yeah,
and it is
really
a
cool.
cool design. It's like this squid coming at you, more or less. This big metal squid.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, that
yeah,
looks fierce. Like, I'm okay with that. Because I mean, again, they do a great job with the quote redesign of the Enterprise. It's just like the Enterprise that you know and love, really shiny. I mean, it does look like I don't know the deck the main deck is very clean, and maybe looks
yeah,
like I don't know the Geek Squad deck at a brand new Best Buy or something. Like it's really fancy, or but it's I don't know it. But there's enough of the old stuff there that you're still with it.
yeah.
But I do like. I mean, the outside looks basically the same. I like how they're doing this here at the end. Of course, we beam everybody back, and the black hole consumes the Narada. But of course, the Enterprise escapes because that's what the Enterprise does, right? It always
Of
escapes.
course, that's exactly what it does. Yeah. When J.J. Abrams is doing this, and this, a lot of times I always get nervous when I hear stuff like this. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
we want to make it for a new audience. I always cringe when I do that because that's what
Yeah.
Card Season 2 tried to do. That's what Discovery tried to do. That's
Hmm.
what Enterprise tried to do the first season. And and none of those worked. I mean,
Mm-mm.
Enterprise found its groove in seasons 3 and 4 when it stopped trying to be, when it said, you know what, we have an audience, let's not piss them off anymore. And it
Hmm.
got really well. And then by that time, there was fatigue had set in. And but JJ Abrams knows, like, okay, we're doing a reboot. We can do all new things. It's a different timeline. We want to make sure that the core Trek audience respects this. Like, we'll have the little things in there, like the character development of Kirk and Spock, the personalities. We're going to match them as close as we can. We're going to make them the people you think they would be when they were younger. But we also need to attract some new audiences, because at the end of the day, we got to make money. And that's all these big action scenes and things like that. The whole like Spock getting beamed out at the last second. Of course, that's makes it exciting for people. That's people like to see that. Look at the Fast and Furious movies. They get out of the car at the last second before it tumbles off a cliff. That's just how it happens. And I liked it. I think this is one of the rare times where they make Trek for people, for new audiences, but also for the old audiences, and it works. I mean, I think it definitely works.
I mean, the whole idea is they want to fast forward you through all the things you didn't know, but it's all the things you didn't know told in a different timeline now.
Yeah.
But so that way we protect everything you know and love that exists in a different place. Cool. Okay, fair. But the wild thing is we wind up right back where it all started anyway, and,
Yeah.
and it's just how they got there. I get the idea of ultimately you want to bring in a new audience, sure. So you do that with all the effects and the change of action and stuff. But if we're going to wind up with the same characters in the same places, ultimately, I felt like I wanted to see them all be, okay, we're now all under Captain Pike's, command. And then in the next movie, they get the ship. You know what I mean? Like that's what and as the non-Trekkie, that's kind of what I wanted. Was I want them all to get to a point where they work, and then they get it handed off to them. They get it handed off to them really quick.
Yeah, that is, I'll agree with that. That was something I was like, whoa, these are still cadets, and now you're like promoting them to captains and commanders and letting them run the show. I mean, yeah, yeah, I agree. That happened a little too quickly. That was something I didn't really particularly like.
I mean, you wanted yeah. I mean, I understand the idea is we've got to get to this point, but I don't know. If you want to build a new franchise, and that was the whole purpose of this, right? Was let's reboot this franchise. Then, well, leave me somewhere else to go, because now you just stuck me right where we were.
Yeah,
okay.
No, exactly.
So now what?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I think it would have been better had they like taken the ship after, like they all came into command of the ship after.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll give you a good example of a franchise that left you in a place that if you're going to go somewhere with it, it'll be different. The very end of Batman Begins, when they flip over that Joker card, and he's like, "I'll check it out." I'm like,
Yeah.
that they could have shoved that into that movie, but they decided, nope, we're going to hold that. And Nolan, being a genius, is like, no, we're going to hold it for the best thing you'll ever see, and which is an incredible remake of Heat with Batman in it. But I'm like, I would have loved to have had that moment in this movie where like Pike sits down these people and is like, okay, so communications officer, she's hired. Engine boy, you're hired, but you're no longer in charge. Learn how to fix something, and like you demote everybody back down to the rightful place. And then he looks at Kirk and Spock and says, and you two, you're on my left and my right until I say otherwise. And I would have liked that because he is such a strong figure, particularly for Kirk, but really for both of them. I would be like, okay, that's cool. Because now we've got a character that we know of, right? But we're going to make that a real character. And then somewhere in the second movie, you can hand it off. He dies, whatever. And that's how we get there. But obviously, it's not where they wanted to go. They wanted to end with Kirk's the captain, Spock's the first officer, and
Right.
and that's where we land with it. And where they go, we'll talk about that in a future episode, because I have many thoughts, and I imagine you do too. But
Yeah, there's you want to talk about some things that were stretches. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm like, okay, there are some things here that I mean, I enjoyed it, but there were some. Oh boy, I had to
we're gonna have
my disbelief.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get to that when we get to Into Darkness. But for right now, we're at the end of Star Trek. So just final thoughts, and this is a completely different timeline, so we'll rate them like we would anything else on Film Strip with popcorn ratings and stuff. I want to hear what yours are for the 2009 Star Trek.
I put this is my fourth favorite Star Trek film of
Oh
all the Star
wow,
Trek films.
wow.
I very much like this, and I think it was like how they portrayed the characters. Like it's a new take, great acting, fun story. It brought in people that weren't Trekkies, but it didn't give, like Discovery, for example, when they try to do lip service for the core audience, it's
Hmm.
basically just randomly mentioning. Oh, they mentioned Spock. Oh, we're supposed to mention, like, they randomly mention, you know, the Enterprise, like something from a previous episode. They just randomly mention it. We're supposed to, like, shit ourselves with excitement.
Hmm.
This didn't do that. This looked at those little small things of Kirk beating the Kobayashi Maru, Kirk and his affinity for the ladies, Spock's struggle with his human side. I mean, they really did a fascinating job of highlighting the things that we've come to know about them, but do it in a way that really makes it believable. Um, I really truly loved. I loved everything about this movie. I mean, granted, there were some things that if they were a bit of deleted scenes in there, made this movie 3 hours longer. This might have been my third favorite Trek film of all time,
Mm.
but I loved it. I thought it was a fresh new take. I love the fact that J. Abrams came right out and said, "This is a different timeline. Don't worry, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel in the original time or rewrite canon. This is a totally different timeline." So it's given us it gives us a whole new Star Trek universe. So I was very excited after that. I was like, all right, there's still hope that the original Prime universe, they can still do something in that. But until then, we've got this whole new Star Trek universe in a totally different timeline we can do a whole bunch of cool stuff with. And I was very excited. I loved it. I'm a big fan. Screen glare and all, I am a big fan.
I I'm glad you loved it. I'm a little surprised to hear you hadn't ranked that high, but that's cool. That's fine. In the grand pantheon, this one's like eighth for me. And I'll tell you
Okay.
because again, as this the Star Trek movies fan or whatever, I feel like I'm
Hmm.
watching the best versions of other things I've seen, but on fast forward. And just this movie just never takes any friggin' time to breathe on anything. And I know that is part of the aesthetic. That's what they were going for. But
Yeah.
man, that's the thing that always made Star Trek different in my book than other stuff. It wasn't trying to be Indiana Jones. It wasn't trying to be Star Wars. It would breathe a
Right.
little bit. And the times when it got out of that and tried to be those other things, Insurrection and Nemesis and Final Frontier, some of this real bad stuff that we've gone through happens. And when it's allowed to breathe and just be itself, it can be kind of fun and goofy, like Voyage Home,
Yeah.
or it can be really, really good, like motion picture or uh, something like First Contact. And
Hmm.
I think when I watch this now, and especially this one, I'm like, I see what you're going for here, but gosh, I just wish the movie knew how to breathe a little bit and would give me a little more. And the one thing that it gave us was it gave us a twist on Spock that we hadn't seen before, and so I credit that a lot to Zachary Quinto and to Chris Pine for playing off of him the way he did. I feel like together they have a real chemistry with each other. And I'm like, I was intrigued enough to go, all right, I want to see this next one. I want to see what you do next. And I said to myself at the time, just please don't like try to bring Khan or something back because that would just be lame. I remember that. So I
Yeah.
mean, for me, it's solid medium popcorn territory, but like fun. Again, this can be fun. You can put it on and just kind of go. And again, it looks great. It's a cool ass looking Transformers Star Trek movie. It's kind of what it looks like to be. But I do feel like I'm missing something in it. And I think part of this, I'm not going to lie, is a little bit shaded because I know what's coming, too, and at least in the next chapter. And we'll talk about that next time, Nate, here on this one, because,
Yeah.
like I said, I've got a lot of thoughts about Into Darkness, and I'm sure you do too.
Oh yeah.
But been a lot of fun catching back up with this series with you here as we're getting near the end of the year, so we'll see if we squeeze one more in before the end of the year here, folks. But either way, we'll be back to get those last two chapters. And I don't know. Who knows? Maybe by the time we finish this, they'll have a new movie in production or something. They've been teasing one for 12 years, it seems like, but they've got
A
40
lot of different
shows.
ideas are being floated out there right now. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's lots of places to go, but we'll talk about where they go with this next time on the show. But of course, folks, you can follow this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Do ask you to check out our YouTube channel now. Occasionally, we'll throw video podcasts up there, but you can just get the audio there. That's been really popular. So go ahead and hit subscribe on that. Follow that. You can follow the show on all the social medias at Film Strip Pod. And of course, we're 430 plus episodes deep now, so there's something for everybody. Check out what we've got going on, and if you can leave a good positive review for the show, it helps other people find it. We appreciate the support. So until next time, for Nate, I'm Jay. Thank you for listening to Film Strip.
Thank you for listening to Film Strip. You can find more episodes on our website, filmstrippodcast.com. The Film Strip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.